Hello and welcome into this week's episode of The Walkthrough presented by Tilly's Warehouse, located at 2000B Green Street, Columbia, South Carolina, right in the heart of 5 Points. This week, three big things as week one of college football is upon us. Have Jordan Kaye of the state to talk about, his expectations for week one and what the Gamecocks will look like in Atlanta. Talk about that, talk about Faison getting cleared, and also the sprint through, as we always do, talking about national news at the end of the show per usual. This is The Walkthrough. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to it.
I guess you wonder where I've been. I searched to...
Yeah, like I said, I'm Joe Machika. This is The Walkthrough. You guys already know that. It is Tuesday, August 26th. Welcome into it. Another week. It is game week. College football is back upon us. I have Jordan Kaye of the state to talk about, expectations for week one, what to expect from South Carolina and Atlanta. We will get to that in a second. But again, just wanted to update everybody. Have this show going live on Tuesdays. Check out the website, thewalkthroughmedia.com, for all of your blogs and your latest needs. Again, good to be back. Good to be, in it. But anyways, kicking it over to my interview with Jordan Kaye of the state, friend of the program, friend of the show. Again, talking about week one. All righty, welcome back into The Walkthrough presented by Tilly's Warehouse. I am now joined by my guest, Mr. Jordan Kaye. This is his second year on the beat with the state newspaper. Jordan, first off, how you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. You will be in Atlanta for week one for South Carolina and Virginia Tech. Brought you in today to preview kind of what you've seen from camp and everything leading up to this point. So, first off, obviously big news last night, starting at the top, I guess, Rasul Faison cleared. What does he bring to the offense? I guess a long saga over at last too.
Yeah, I mean, thank goodness. We've seen so many of these eligibility things have to end in court. So it's kind of nice that one of them doesn't and that it helps South Carolina out. So that was a big thing it was a lot longer wait than anyone wanted, but thank goodness it didn't have to get to court because that was going to suck. But man, Rasul Faison as a runner, I mean, this is a guy who, yes, he's 25 years old and yes, he's been out of high school for like 7 years, but he's hardly run the ball. Like you think of a guy who doesn't have a lot of miles on him. That's Rasul Faison. Like I don't know if he's had 400. He's had just over 400 carries in his whole college career. Yeah. So a fresh dude. And then what I liked most about him is his best games last year at Utah State were against the best teams. Boise State, Utah. I mean, when the defenses were at their best, I mean, Rasul Faison turned up his game. And this is the guy that is really shifty, can hit holes, but also has the power to kind of run through some tackles and get extra yards. So I think he's going to be a great, addition to that running back room and should play nicely off Oscar Adaway.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, Oscar Adaway already in that room and, has showed, his moxie for sure in that bowl game playing on that high ankle sprain. He was going to be the guy returning, certainly earned his spot from that. But yeah, with the addition, of Faison in the room with Adaway, what's that going to look like? You have two running backs that are about our age, Jordan.
Yeah, I know. I had to do the math yesterday. I'm like 21 months older than Faison.
It's close.
Crap.
It's insane. Yeah. But yeah, two vets in that room. What is this offense going to look like? Obviously with two vets at the top, and then you've got young bucks coming back up, and we'll get to those guys too.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot different than last year. I mean, you think about of the running back carries, I think Rocket Sanders took about 70% of all the carries of running backs, not including Sellers or Ashford. So that's not going to be the case this year. I mean, I could see a world where, it's like 45% Oscar Adaway, 40% Rasul Faison, and then the rest kind of split between Isaiah Augustave and Matthew Fuller. And who knows, maybe one of those guys breaks out and starts stealing some carries from Adaway and Faison. So we really have no idea, and I don't think the coaches do either, of what this is actually going to look like. It's probably going to change week to week. I'd imagine they start week one against Virginia Tech, running with Adaway, giving Faison a couple carries, and then kind of throwing in some other guys and just trying to see, hey, who is the hot hand? Like, what do we have here? And I think it's going to shift throughout the season. So I really have no idea how they're going to do it. It's probably going to be, hey, let's give Attaway a couple carries. Oh, he needs a break. Throw Faison in. Okay, let's go. Keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And depth is something you need in the running back room in the SEC. Like we've seen it break down here at South Carolina. I feel like with Marshawn Lloyd and Christian Beal-Smith, like those guys got bumped and bruised, and, you need the depth underneath them. And I think, having Faison clear certainly helps Attaway, but also helps the rest of the room as well. And yeah, having as many options as you can for 16 out of the backfield is a really good thing. And I think Faison brings a lot to the table as well in terms of his skill set, kind of diversifying, adding another dimension to the backfield. No preseason in college football, right? So these guys, we don't get to see what this team, looks like. You get obviously a limited look, at practice, the 15, 20 minutes that you guys get to see. What, I guess, is your initial takeaway as we dive into, kind of what this team is going to, look like here in Atlanta?
I think they're going to be still really good from last year. Like I'm not completely buying into, hey, they lost 7 defensive starters. Like, man, this thing's really going to start crumbling. I do have questions, and questions aren't necessarily a bad thing, but is Brian Thomas Jr. legit? I mean, we've been hearing about it now for a couple of years of, hey, this guy's great. This guy's great. It's like he was solid when he played last year, 4.5 sacks, but can he be the Kennard level? Can he get to 8, 9 sacks? Can he be so dominant that defenses just cannot double team Dylan Stewart? That's what I'm wondering about. And then at linebacker, like I trust Fred J.R. Johnson. I think he's the next dude for South Carolina. That I have no questions there. Around him, I'm a little like, I just got to see it. They got the Justin O kid from Alabama. They got Sean Murphy, who's like been at 3 schools in 3 years. I'm like, I don't know how many guys it's like worked out for. Yeah. So that's a little like, there's a couple of those concerning things. And then at defensive tackle, I mean, Nick Barrett's been here like 5 years. And I mean, I can't think of like one play. He's been behind guys. He just hasn't played a lot. I think Gabe Brown-Lodindy out of Texas A&M is going to be an absolute stud. Could be a game wrecker. But it's just like, okay, if those are your 2 guys, like you got to rotate. Like who else is going to be in there? So, I mean, they had a lot of depth at D tackle. It kind of almost just went under the radar last year. Same thing at edge, and you lose already 3 guys there. I think the secondary is going to be fine. They basically return almost everyone. Yeah. That safety spot, you could maybe say like, hey, do you trust Peyton Williams and David Busey? But those guys played a lot last year and were good. So I don't have as many questions about the defense as others, but there certainly are a couple spots where you're like, all right, like I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. That linebacker spot, again, I also think Fred is going to be a monster. I mean, his film jumps off the tape at you, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
Just freak athlete. And we kind of knew that from the jump, how he went, under recruited, I guess, kind of a late bloomer, as Clayton White has kind of told us. But yeah, I think Justin O, again, project guy at Alabama, international player, right? You'd like to see him step up. Jerron Willis has been a guy that's been here for a while that, you'd like to see take that next step. But outside of Fred, I think this linebacker room is the biggest question. Luckily, you brought in some extra help on the coaching staff. And, Clayton White has been dealt this hand before at South Carolina too, where, he's been short in depth and has coached his way through the issue. What, I guess, more on the linebackers, Jordan, do you see the Gamecocks like this being a long-term issue, or do you see them developing out of it?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of, as you're mentioning what Clayton White's, coached through, I think about last year, and I think I also said it was a question mark because it was like, hey, you lose Stone Blanton and Pup Howard, and Debo Williams hadn't played a ton. Who the heck is this Demetrius Knight guy? Bam Martin Scott's hardly played. Like, what is this going to look like? Ended up in basically the strength of that South Carolina defense, kind of the leaders in the middle there. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, if Clayton White was able to do that last year, it's kind of one of those things of, hey, trust these guys in their talent evaluation. They know what they're looking for in transfers. Clayton White knows what he wants in a linebacker, and this is going to sort itself out. So if you're going to be optimistic, that's probably the stance to take.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you mentioned the D-line too. I also agree with that. I think, there's a lot of depth there. I wasn't really sure of, why the D-line was even in kind of a question this offseason. With what they returned Monkel Goodwine. And I think Barnlow Dindy also is going to be a stud. So I think, you're kind of just relying on Nick Barrett and the edges, right? Like, we know Dylan Stewart is going to be good. How good can he be? And the word coming out of camp is that he's bigger, better, faster, stronger. Like, does that track with what you've been seeing at camp? And how good could this defensive line really be? Can they overachieve out of last year's stance?
I don't think I wouldn't go that far because
Right.
I think the Brownlow Dindy and Monkel Goodwine, those are good players and they can be solid. I don't think they can be to the level of, TJ Sanders and stuff last year. So there's probably a little dip, and then same thing at edge. Like I have a hard time thinking that someone's going to come and turn into Kyle Kennard, just in what he was able to do sack wise, tackles for loss wise, playing off Dylan Stewart. Like I just have a hard time seeing that. So
yeah,
I don't think it's crazy to think there's a regression. It's just like, how much of a regression is it? Do your sack total drop in half, or does it drop by like 2 or 3?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, also you look at the position coaches too. Thank God Travian Robertson is all right. But 2 of the best position coaches we've heard, on the defensive side of the ball and developing talent and getting guys ready to play. So there's a little bit more optimism for that room. Jordan, I mentioned before the show, Stephon Gilmore was in the building last night. And to me, at least, it seems like a good omen for this DB room. Obviously, you're losing a little bit, but also returning a lot of starters in the defensive backfield. You brought in Brandon Cisse, a guy that Clayton White said can do both. This defensive backfield has potential to be really, really, really good. And also, that helps when you're also, might be lacking a little bit at linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of experience there. I think Cisse can play cornerback. If Jalen Kilgore needs a breather at nickel, he can go over there. Safety, you're returning DQ Smith, you're returning Kilgore. Corner, you're returning a bunch of guys, really, and then adding Cisse to that room. And then it's really, hey, we're replacing Nick Eamon-Wari with Peyton Williams or David Busey or Gerald Kilgore or whoever. So it's like, yeah, that's about as much experience as you're going to bring back for a position group. So yeah, you got to feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, when you get the mark of the guy who kind of started the trend, you got to feel good. Jordan, we haven't talked about the offense very much outside of, the running backs. I think this wide receiver room, in my opinion, has the highest ceiling out of anybody in this offense besides the quarterback. It's a room that needs to step up. You've got some vets in there with some young, really young studs. What are you seeing from Mike Furry's group as they enter 2025?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like there's just too much athleticism for them to stuck. It seems hard to think that they're gonna just completely crater, as kind of they did last year. And Nick Harbor, man, just to watch him run routes is like a billion times more smooth than it was last year. Catching the ball looks better. Mazio Bennett's gonna be better. And then you look at the freshmen, and if you want to just play the odds games, you're not hitting 100% on freshmen, but man, even if you only hit 30%, I mean, that's still 2 breakout stars of this wide receiver group. And, we saw Brian Rowe, Malik Clark already kind of jump out in the spring game. And I've heard Donovan Murph is right up there with those 2 guys. So it's like, all right, there's 3 dudes who are now going to be in the mix. And Mike Shula is saying, hey, there might be actually more that are playing. Maybe we get all the freshmen playing. It's like, what? So there's just too many bodies and too many guys in there, I think, for it to be bad. I think there might need to be some patience. This is just, I remember last year, it was like, God, they were touting those transfer receivers, Jared Brown and Gage Larvade and all these guys. And we get out to Old Dominion. It was like there was just drop ball after drop ball. And it was like, what is going on? So, I mean, with the freshmen, I don't want people to make just judgments off the Virginia Tech game. Like, I'll give it a couple weeks to kind of see, hey, these young guys are getting acclimated to college football.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. I think, especially in the SEC too, it's going to take a little bit for a unit like that to kind of get their feet underneath them and get into a rhythm too with their quarterback. So I guess it helps with Nick Harbor not running track, full focus on football. And again, it just goes to show you what Mike Furry's been able to do with that room. Really high energy guy, one of our favorites to deal with on the beat for sure. So, it's really nice to see what he's been able to do with that room. Jordan, one of the biggest positions in college football, quite literally, the offensive line is another question mark for South Carolina. They're returning the 2 tackles in Josiah Thompson and Kaye Henry. Josiah Thompson obviously being on the blind side, so Lenoris is familiar with some of his protection, but the middle, they got to return the middle of this offensive line. What have you seen from that group, and has the middle done enough to kind of shore up any doubts?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, better than last year, if only because Josiah Thompson, I mean, he had some freshman moments last season, which is not to say I think anyone would. Like, you're going to get beat up as a freshman left tackle. So he's got a whole year of experience under his belt, understands what the heck he's getting himself into every week. Kaye Henry's only going to get better at right tackle. Last year, I mean, Vershawn Lee had played a little center, but he wasn't, I don't know, no one called him a center, and he was kind of thrown into that. This year, you got Boaz Stanley from Troy, who's actually a center and has played college football. He also came in January, so he's basically had 9 months to play with Lenoris Sellers. So you feel really good about that. The 2 guard spots, I mean, it's just a question mark. Like, I think Trevon Baugh is probably going to win one of those. I don't know about the other. That's a little bit of a concern. But this whole group is one of those where I'm like, I'll kind of just believe it when I see it. Like, I mean, we've been hearing, the offensive line's so much better, last year. They still gave up 41 sacks. And, I mean, there probably should have been another 10 that Lenoris Sellers, got out of. So I just have a tough time being like, gosh, this unit's going to be a monster. It's like, I think it's going to be improved, but I got to see it. Like, I got to see it. Let's see the recruiting for the last 2 or 3 years. Like, it's time to see some progress.
Yeah. Absolutely. Trevon Baugh is a guy that, you talk about being thrown into the fire. His first start was against Georgia. So I think it, does some good if he wins out that starting job at guard, just have some experience in the SEC. Like, he was thrown into the fire and, got dinged up and been banged up too. So, you want him to be consistent, and add some consistency. Bo Stanley, as you mentioned, a true center. It's awesome to have a true center in there. And again, that's what 16 needs is consistency at this point. So, really good stuff out of the offensive line there. And again, shoring things up as they go into the new year. Transitioning over into Virginia Tech, Jordan, scouting a little bit of them before you head to Atlanta. They're bringing back Kyron Drones, their quarterback, for his final year. To me, it seems like it's Kyron Drones versus everybody. What have you seen from the Hokies side of things?
Yeah, I think it's, I think exactly what you're saying. It's like the Kyron Drones. You stop him, and I think you pretty much stop Virginia Tech. I mean, this is not a world-beating team. They won 6 games in, the ACC. I don't know that it's the craziest test for South Carolina out of the gate. I thought the Vegas line of South Carolina by 8 almost could have been South Carolina by like 10 to 13, and I don't think many people would have blinked an eye. I mean, they're going to be better. Brent Pry's 5th season, I think, 4th season. Yeah. So they're going to be better, and you return a quarterback. I mean, you think of how excited South Carolina fans get just to know, hey, we've got our guy behind center back. It's like that's how Virginia Tech feels. And so that's why it's going to be huge for whoever's opposite Dylan Stewart to kind of shine right away. Because I imagine Virginia Tech has spent the entire offseason showing its offensive tackles and tight ends some Dylan Stewart film and saying, you need to shut this guy down. So I imagine there's going to be a bunch of double teams, which you would think is going to free up some lanes for, the Brian Thomas Jr.'s or the Desmond Umazulus of the world. And that's going to be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Jordan, this South Carolina team, obviously this is a neutral site game. In years past, they've come out flat on the road. This being a neutral site, I don't know if that impacts that at all. But I guess, what does South Carolina have to do to not beat themselves in this game? What do they have to find success in to not beat themselves and let Virginia Tech just take one?
I think it's first limiting the sacks. Like there were so many times last year or just drives would just stall because of sacks and then turnovers. I mean, it's not the craziest thing in the world, but man, early on last season, Lenoris Sellers had a real fumbling problem, and he's worked on it. He got better throughout the year, stopped fumbling as much. I know they've worked on it this offseason. So, hey, you're playing against a different opponent. You would want them to see, hey, no fumbles, no turnovers this game. So I think those are pretty much the two things. Hey, just don't beat yourself. No fumbles, no turnovers. I'm almost okay with penalties, like for a first game. Like,
true,
it's gonna happen. Like that's not gonna, it could lose you a game, but it's like, all right, that's pretty normal for a first game. But the turnovers, hey, can you not fumble? Can you avoid sacks? I think that might tell us a lot about this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is like the closest thing we're ever gonna, or I guess as of now, gonna get to, preseason in the college football realm.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think you're acceptable. You're taking penalties. Like, yeah, like again, might lose you a game, but again, if you're smart enough and can adjust quick enough to just the atmosphere and the environment, the penalties shouldn't kill you. But yeah, it's gonna be the expectation, is it's gonna be loose. Like again, these guys haven't played anybody but themselves. So without a preseason, there's gonna be some things that slip through the cracks that aren't a well-oiled machine. Looking like at the wide receiver room and whatnot. But again, I think this Virginia Tech game boils down to South Carolina not beating themselves. That's at least my main scout. If you shut down Kyron Drones, don't beat yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Jordan, one quick thing before I get you out of here and plug everything, whatnot. South Carolina switching to Nike in 2026. Any takes on that? What was your initial, opinion of the new deal?
Yeah, I thought it was a solid deal for South Carolina. I mean, there were some people who wanted more cash. South Carolina, the Under Armour deal in 2016 got like $24 million in cash. This year they're only really getting 5, maybe a little bit more with royalties. But it's just kind of how these deals are starting to go. I mean, you look at Kentucky just signed a deal like just before South Carolina, basically the same thing, except they didn't get the $5 million in cash. They just got the 15% royalty. So it's very similar. Other than that, I think it's good to just get away from Under Armour. Like Under Armour, like recruits didn't like it, players didn't like it, fans didn't like it. It's just a weird brand. So it's like you get Nike, and I just think I don't know. I don't know that it changes a whole lot. Like I really have a tough time believing that like your entire recruiting is going to change because you went to Nike. I mean, maybe you lost like one kid ever. Some of the kids who were like, oh, I wouldn't have gone there if it was Under Armour. Okay, we'll see. I don't know if I believe that. So I'm not whole like, oh my gosh, this is gonna change recruiting. Like, probably not. It just looks cooler, and,
right?
That's fine. If you like, it looks cooler. It's fun to wear. So that's good. I don't know if it's not gonna change your program, but man, when fans walk into the bookstore and pick up a Nike thing, they're going to have a little extra smile on their face.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like with Under Armour, you were protecting that crumbling house, if you will, is kind of the best way to, right? Like, honestly, like it's the way the UCLA deal kind of went down. It's like, all right, like things aren't really looking great. Still have the Notre Dame contract, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, and I guess the main reason why people were, wanted more cash because they saw what Adidas did with Tennessee, but Tennessee is about to be Adidas' like premier school, right? It's going to be their marquee brand, right?
We also have not gotten the more I looked into this, we have not really gotten the actual numbers of the Tennessee deal.
Right.
So, like, I'm not sure if someone was saying they got $10 million a year, and that could be right. But that might also not include like any product allotment,
right,
which would then mean Tennessee would have to spend like $6 million of the $10 million on product, and then and it's like, oh wait, it's not that good of a deal. So we don't know.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. I think the Tennessee, they kind of kept it under wraps and just put out what they wanted to, and it's like I don't know what they actually got.
Yeah, typical Tennessee fashion there. I was trying to write a story for the Gamecock and tried to get in touch with the band, the Tennessee Pride.
Oh yeah,
no response, nothing. Nobody would talk to me. Yeah, I was trying to write about how Rocky Top, did, or if it did something on the brain and how many times. Nothing. Mum was the word. It's crazy. So, anyways, Jordan, I appreciate you joining me. Obviously on my show, I let guests plug wherever they're at, whatever's going on their way out. Jordan, tell the world what's going on with you.
Yeah, state.com, go Gamecocks. Got a couple of Virginia Tech Shane Beamer stories. It's 2025 season predictions. And go find me on TikTok, Jordan at the State. Trying to get over there. Got a video a day going. Thanks,
Love it.
Joe. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that was my interview with Jordan Kaye of the State. Again, appreciate him joining me this morning. Good to talk to him, talking week one. Again, wrapping up this week's episode of The Walkthrough, presented by Tilly's Warehouse, again, located at 2000 Beat Green Street, proud sponsors, but sprint to the finish, per usual, as we talk about national sports news at the end of the show. First one I got, Spencer Rattler, named the starter in the Big Easy. Hat tip to Spencer Rattler, again, winning out that job. You hope he can hold on to it. I know they drafted a quarterback, but, who knows? Of all people, Spencer Rattler can maybe turn the tide down there in the Big Easy in New Orleans. So I know Gamecock Nation was certainly happy to see that news coming out of New Orleans. So big things for Spencer Rattler in New Orleans, again, for the Saints. So that was huge. Another thing I wanted to talk about, Shedeur Sanders makes the Browns roster. Also, good for that kid. All Nepo babies. You're not really a Nepo baby if you use your resources to your advantage. I think, certainly using his dad to his advantage, right? Teaching him how to be a pro and all that. And also doing it by himself too. I know he kind of switched management and did all that. So hat tip to Shedeur there as well. And then tomorrow, Keegan Bradley expected to name himself as playing captain of the Ryder Cup. It would be the first since Arnold Palmer in 1963 when the United States demolished Europe 23-9. My take on that is it is not the same Ryder Cup Europe team of 1963. That is for sure. Again, the United States demolishing Europe 23-9 in the 1963 Ryder Cup. The last time there was a playing captain in the Ryder Cup, and that was Arnold Palmer, at least on the U.S. side. He got a big win, but again, this is no average or 1963 European team Keegan Bradley has to go up against. I don't know. Rory McIlroy was quoted a couple days ago saying he has turned down the Ryder Cup offer because he doesn't think the playing captaincy for Europe because he doesn't think you can do it. Keegan Bradley must think he can. Again, East Lake is where the 1963 Ryder Cup, last time there was a playing captain, Arnold Palmer, last to do it for the United States and won. So we'll see what Keegan Bradley has to do. Again, a little golf talk at the end of the walkthrough. But yeah, I don't know. Should Keegan Bradley do it? Yeah, he's playing well enough. Why not? And I think with Rory throwing it out there that he doesn't think you can do it, why not? Why not? I mean, it's a Bethpage bike. If you lose it, again, you kind of have an excuse because of how stacked the European team is and how long they've been playing together. Justin Rose, again, John Rahm, Rory McIlroy, Tommy Fleetwood. It goes on. Robert McIntyre. The list goes on and on. Ludwig Aberg will be back. So the European team is loaded. I think, obviously you get the 6 qualifiers, JJ Spawn, Bryson DeChambeau, in the mix for the United States. But yeah, Keegan Bradley likely to pick himself for the United States Ryder Cup team next year. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Why not, though? I think, again, he's got a valid excuse of something to blame it on because this European team is stacked. But again, so yeah, appreciate everyone tuning into this week's episode of The Walkthrough presented by Tilly's Sports. Again, you can find, or Tilly's Warehouse, excuse me, presented by Tilly's Warehouse located at 2000 B Green Street. Again, right behind the Salty Nut Cafe. You guys can find it there for all of your beverage needs. Appreciate everyone tuning into this week's episode, and we will see you